Okay, let's dive right into this. When you think of sharks, you probably picture a solitary predator, patrolling the deep, maybe even something straight out of a Hollywood blockbuster. But in this explainer, we're going to completely reframe how you view these incredible animals. We aren't just looking at sharks as predators today. We're looking at them as absolutely vital ecosystem guardians. The architecture of our oceans actually relies on them in ways that are virtually invisible to us, until, of course, they're gone. And unfortunately, they are disappearing. 316. That is a staggering number. According to the latest updates from the IUCN Red List of Threatened Species, exactly 316 species of sharks and rays are currently threatened with extinction. And a lot of these declines are driven by overharvesting for meat, fins, and oil. The sheer scale of this number should really give us all pause. I mean, it represents a massive, looming shift in global marine biology. Which brings us to the central question we are exploring today. What actually happens to the ocean when the apex predator disappears? It's not just a matter of one species vanishing, right? As we'll see in the data, the ocean is this incredibly tightly woven web. Pulling out the top predator doesn't just create a gap at the top. It sends literal shockwaves all the way down to the ocean floor. Section 1. The landscape of fear. So a shark's impact isn't just about what it eats. It's really about the psychological hold it has over the water. A shark's mere presence alters the ocean in profound ways. This brings us to a frankly mind-bending concept documented by researchers like Alejandro Frid and his team called the fear-released system. Think about it. When you pull an apex predator out of an ecosystem, you don't just lose the predator. You completely eliminate the fear that previously dictated the behavior of smaller species. The animals in the middle of the food chain suddenly change how they forage, where they swim, and the spaces they occupy, all because the sheer terror of being eaten is just gone. And this brilliantly illustrates how that plays out in the real world. Let's look at this study on harbor seals. When Pacific sleeper sharks are present, the deep water is incredibly risky, so seals stay up in the shallower strata, safely eating fatty herring. But when that shark intimidation is removed in simulations, the entire system shifts. Without fear, the seals dive deep. They start heavily consuming walleye pollock, which is a bigger, more predictable fish, and they drastically reduce their herring intake. The seals literally change their zip code and their diet purely based on the risk of being eaten. The researchers perfectly humanize this behavioral plasticity with a really great academic phrase. They call it hazardous duty pay. Basically, animals only take bigger, deeper risks if the energetic reward of the food is actually worth the danger of getting eaten. If the danger is removed, they don't have to weigh that risk anymore. The behavioral boundaries of the ocean simply vanish. Section 2. Trophic cascades in action. Okay, so when fear is removed, boundaries vanish, and those ecological dominoes start falling fast, leading to catastrophic consequences. First, let's define our terms so we're all on the same page. A trophic cascade is an ecological phenomenon triggered by the addition or removal of top predators, resulting in dramatic, reciprocal changes in ecosystem structure across multiple lower levels. In short, it's the scientific term for the domino effect. And the data from our sources shows this happening in real time all over the globe. Let's look at this stunning new study from the University of Miami, mapping out false bays, South Africa. Historically, this area was absolutely famous for great white sharks. But over the past couple of decades, thanks to nets intended to protect bathers and predation by orcas, the great whites have vanished. Without them, the Cape fur seals and seven-gill sharks have surged in numbers. And because they're surging, the smaller fish that the seals eat and the smaller sharks that the seven-gills eat are heavily declining. It's a complete structural shift in the food web. We see the exact same pattern playing out with local economies off the coast of North Carolina. Step 1, large local sharks like blacktips get overfished. Step 2, without those sharks, their main prey, the cow-nosed ray, explodes in numbers, pushing into areas they used to be way too terrified to enter. Step 3, the massive schools of rays overgraze and completely collapsed a century-old bay scallop fishery. So the crucial point here is that ecological dominoes fall incredibly fast, and they directly hit the human communities that rely on these waters. And it's not just coastal fisheries either. It's our coral reefs too. This data synthesized from the Australian Institute of Marine Science paints a really clear picture. With sharks present, mid-level predators like snappers and groupers are controlled. This allows algae-eating herbivores like parrotfish to remain plentiful, which results in high coral cover. But when sharks are absent, the mid-level predators just explode in numbers. They decimate the parrotfish. And without the parrotfish to graze, the coral gets completely overgrown and suffocated by algae. It's like removing the shark essentially destroys the reef's natural defense mechanism. Section 3. Protectors of blue carbon. Let's move to and see how this builds on a global level. This involves a massive climate plot twist centered around some incredibly unassuming shallow water marine plants. Check this out. Seagrasses cover less than 0.2% of the global seafloor, yet they absorb 10 to 18% of the ocean's carbon each year. They capture carbon up to 35 times faster than tropical rainforests. They are a vital weapon against global warming, raising pH levels and counteracting ocean acidification. But how do sharks fit into this botanical marvel? Well, they act as the ultimate underwater security guards. In Shark Bay, Western Australia, researchers have documented how tiger sharks actively protect these critical blue carbon habitats. It's the landscape of fear all over again. By simply patrolling the area, tiger sharks intimidate large marine grazers like dugongs and sea turtles, keeping them moving and preventing them from overgrazing and denuding those eelgrass beds. The shark's presence literally ensures the seagrass stays dense, healthy, and capable of fixing massive amounts of carbon. Section 4. The serial depletion threat. Now, you might be wondering, if sharks are this vital, from local fisheries to global climate defense, why isn't their decline setting off louder alarm bells worldwide? Well, the cascading extinction crisis is currently being hidden in plain sight. To understand how this crisis is masked, we turn to this really powerful quote from Glenn Sant, a senior advisor at Traffic and vice chair of the IUCN Shark Specialist Group. He warns, and I quote, "On the outside, stable annual catches give the false impression that everything is fine, but in reality, they could be masking the serial depletion of species." Here is exactly how that illusion of stability works in global fisheries. Because data reporting on specific species is often incredibly poor, the total quantity of shark meat traded might look perfectly flat, or even like it's rising. But beneath the surface, it's a total shell game. A specific shark population gets completely fished out. But instead of recording a crash, the industry simply moves on and targets a new, different species of shark. The overall catch volume stays stable on a spreadsheet, but the true population crashes of individual species go entirely unrecorded. We are losing the ecosystem's load-bearing pillars one by one without the official data reflecting the localized devastation until the trophic cascade has already begun. Which leaves us here. We've seen how the mere presence of a shark shapes the behavior of animals miles and miles away. We've seen how their absence can collapse a century-old fishery and suffocate a coral reef and algae. We've even seen how they quietly guard the plants that help regulate our entire global climate. So I'll leave you to ponder this final question. If removing the apex predator unravels the entire web, what happens to the ocean when the sharks are truly gone? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking questions and keep looking beneath the surface.